Captain's Log Supplemental. We are in orbit of Baelzaton 4 on an initial recon mission of the pre-warp civilization there. They exhibit very interesting but shockingly consistent behavior. When a small group of them exhibits some type of new behavior, be it wearing some new type of clothing, doing some type of exercise, or even physical violence, any other individual that comes into contact with that behavior immediately adopts it. It makes for a shifting but homogeneous culture. When isolated groups come into contact with each other, the results are often quite extreme in the way they change each other, but they end up with the same behaviors in the end. Makes me think back to when my parents would ask me if all my friends were jumping off a cliff, would I? I think this group would answer in the affirmative if asked.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Captain's Log Supplemental. Captain's Log Supplemental is a Star Trek rewatch podcast. Each week we're covering a new episode, marching ahead in chronological order. My name is Rob, and as always, I am joined by my friends and co-hosts, Chris.
Hello.
Stanford.
Howdy, howdy.
And our producer, Mariah.
Hi there.
So, how y'all doing this week?
Just getting on.
I feel like we should have been answering this question about 10 minutes ago, but somebody was a little late.
No.
Ooh.
Damn.
Who's that? It wasn't me. That person's
Chris is
rude
always
and
early. You leave him alone.
disrespectful of other people's time.
Yeah, I feel like we're the ones that always sign on late because Chris is all
He's
alone.
always already in there.
That's true.
Sad.
I'm usually one of the
Alone.
first one here, but I don't know. They kind of threw me off. It's weird. I'm doing closings this week for work, so my work day is longer, and then because Monday was a holiday, normally I'd have that day off if I was closing, but because I already have it off, I'm just working more hours basically. So yeah, it's just everything's weird, and my sense of time is completely just deranged right now.
Are you salaried or hourly?
Technically, I am hourly. Yeah, which honestly, I've been salary at my last position there. I kind of prefer hourly because
They don't fuck you over as much.
they have rules they have to follow with hourly. So
Yeah, I've been salary now for the better part of a decade, and kind of miss overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like salary is one of those things that the powers that be have convinced us that we want to be because special and more important. But
Look at all the flexibility you have to work extra hours.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that's the best paid positions are salary, and it's because they have to find new ways to fuck you over as you get higher and higher in the organization.
Yeah, but once you get really high, then you just get a bunch of free money for basically doing nothing. So,
And cars.
you have to get there first.
Well,
the American dream.
if it makes you feel any better, Chris, my day has also not been so hot.
Yeah.
We woke up this morning to the sound of dripping water
Again?
Drip, drip, drip.
So I don't remember if I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I know we've talked about it, but a couple weeks ago they were working on refurbishing the upstairs apartment from us, and they had to do work in the plumbing. And when they turned the water back on, I guess they forgot to check the seal on the pipes in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, all the water upstairs was now our water in the downstairs. It was just raining from the cabinets in the kitchen.
That's a super cool and fun time, and awesome thing to experience in general.
Yeah,
Not alarming at
last
all.
night, or I guess this morning, our upstairs neighbors who are already not super considerate with the loud noises. They have a Dodge Challenger that is just kitted out to be as loud as possible.
Nice.
Yeah. And then they were trying to do laundry at 4:00 in the morning, while Kelsey was getting ready. And they apparently they didn't seal the pipes on the hookup for the washer dryer unit either. So our closet just has a whole bunch of water damage in it now. It was like coming out of the light fixture.
Jesus Christ.
Her closet. Yeah.
Good lord.
Yep. So that was fun.
Maybe find a new place to live. I don't know.
No, but this one's so close to us.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to specifically move away from Lansdale.
Mm.
Anyway, what about you, Stanford? How's your day?
Yeah, my day was fine. I almost feel bad at how uneventful and fine my day was. You know, shit. I got nothing. Yeah. I don't know. We even had Chinese food for dinner. Like it's just been a good day.
Oh, it was a good day. Well, I guess we'll just jump into the episode then. This week's episode was Star Trek Enterprise, Season 3, Episode 20, The Forgotten. We get another recap at the top of the episode, ending with Trip waking up from a nightmare of him, like, trying to warn his sister, Elizabeth, about the massive Xindi death laser that's about to disintegrate her. Very dramatic.
Elizabeth.
Archer, after the cut, Archer's in the, I think it's the shuttle bay, giving the crew a speech.
Wait, hold on a second. Did you say that there was like a dream sequence at the beginning?
I think this was.
Yeah.
I also didn't catch the dream
previous
sequence.
episode.
Okay, yeah, I didn't watch the recap. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last recap kind of spoiled some shit for the episode I couldn't remember. So, like, I don't watch recaps.
Oh.
So I was like, fuck, did they accidentally code in, like, some of the dream sequence as part of the recap for the skip? But no, okay, it was just from the previous episode.
Yeah, this was, like, from the nightmare Trip had, like, the days after learning about his sister dying.
I believe they are in the cargo bay, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, Archer's holding a memorial service for the 18 casualties from the reptilian attack,
lording over his minions.
And I guess the showers aren't working yet because like everyone is just covered in grime.
Yeah.
Well, as we find out later, it sounds like nobody's really sleeping or taking care of themselves.
Yeah, we find out 18 people died.
Yeah, 18 casualties. So Archer's just trying to boost the crew's morale and steal them for the next leg of their mission.
He is
Trip into Paul
by giving them neck aches.
He is the least inspiring leader, like, ever in this sequence.
Why did he do the speech from, like, a floor up?
I guess the idea was, like, I don't know. And at the end, he's like, for the 18. It was like, shut the fuck up, dumbass. Like, what are you talking about? You sound like an asshole.
Like, I feel like that's something that winds up on, like, your unit's badge or something after a deployment. Like, it feels weird that he's just saying it in like a memorial service, essentially, for these people.
It sounds like something Homelander would come up with in The Boys.
What if Archer's one of those people that thinks that, like, Homelander's actually a good guy?
100%.
I didn't realize that the show was about him until the most recent season.
Yeah. So after that, Trip and T'Pol join Archer in his quarters to catch him up on the status of repairs. Trip is, I think, rightfully hesitant and advises Archer to, like, hold back and actually take the time to complete repairs to the ship. But Archer's dead set on making their deadline to rendezvous with Degra.
I don't understand Trip's reasoning here because he was also, like, super in favor of stealing this warp coil so they could make this rendezvous on time. So it seems like a kind of sudden shift of priorities on Trip's part. Because, like, I understand his argument, but the problem is that, like, that argument should have happened days ago. And having it now doesn't make any sense.
I mean, they're all tired and overworked.
It may just be just a kind of a reminder for the episode since most of that stuff took place in the previous one. So
yeah, it could also be that the writer's trying to work it in. So yeah, like on top of everything else going on, Archer also asks Trip to write a letter to crewman Taylor's family, one of his subordinates, despite Trip being, like, completely overwhelmed with the work of keeping the ship together.
Trip's like, Cap, can that way? She ain't getting any deader. I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a delegate that.
Yeah.
Archer's, no, you write it. Yeah.
Like, it's weird because, like, up till now, I think every single time there's been an incident with a crew member either dying or being injured, Archer has done that himself.
Also,
Yeah.
like, there was, like, another guy who died. Did like, somebody else get assigned to write the letter for that
There
guy?
were
Like,
18 people dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they
yeah,
had mentioned, like,
this-
2 they had just found, right?
And this little B plot here with the letter is like the emotional pillar of the episode. And like, this was a terrible setup for it. It just like, it doesn't make any sense why Archer's telling Trip to do it. It doesn't make any sense why Trip's being kind of a dick about it. Like, none of this worked. Like this part, the setup of this plot,
Right.
of this particular
I agree.
B plot did not work.
I think overall the plot ended up pretty good.
Yes,
B-plot,
I agree.
I do too.
Which is
But,
why
yeah.
I'm so disappointed. Like, if it ended up being a big nothing burger like usual, I wouldn't have given a shit. But like, because it ended up pretty well done at the end, it's like, wow, this is great. What the fuck were you thinking when you're like, Archer just assigns him a letter about a dead person? Brr.
Like, they could have been like, you just like, instead of this scene where Archer does it, like, assigns this, it could have been just like, I don't know, like Trip briefly reminiscing about like a thing that he knew about her.
Or like,
or
maybe he's slightly distracted when Archer's telling him something, and Archer's just like, "What's up?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, Cap. I'm just really trying to figure out this letter I got to write for so and so."
Right.
Like any other method of delivery for this plot would have been so much better than this kind of unnecessary little conflict between him and Archer.
Yeah, it was weird. I agree.
I feel like all they had to do was have a little scene where like Trip is struggling to write it already, and he just like, I don't know, goes and checks with somebody for like some help, you know, just he like stops in with Phlox and says like, hey, you know, Captain asked me to write this letter to Crewman Taylor, like, do you have any recommendations or something like that? Like that would have been a better like work in for it, you know? Anyway, T'Pol winds up visiting Phlox for a checkup. Phlox finds almost no trace of Trillium D left in her system, which is good news. But she reports that she's still having more and more trouble dealing with all of her new emotions.
I don't know if this is always the case. I don't remember it until now, so I think this might be new for this scene. But I like how Phlox's sickbay has like pet store noises going on. There's like birds chirping and like cage rattling and shit.
Oh man, I didn't notice.
Yeah, I also noticed that, which makes me think that it stuck out because it was different in this episode.
Yeah, it's the first time I ever noticed, like, it's like walking into a PetSmart, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Phlox winds up warning her that the Trillium D abuse has damaged her neural pathways, maybe irreparably, and she may just have to learn how to deal with the emotions permanently.
Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
That, which would have been such a better thing for him to say. This is where, like, I find Star Trek's explanation of how Vulcan emotions work kind of inconsistent and confusing. Like, they treat it like it's a biologically programmed thing that they, like, either suppress or it blows their fucking mind out of the back of their skull. Like, I don't know. It's very weird. Vulcan's psychology is inconsistent and weird.
I don't disagree with that. Like, it's...
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's, you know, there's just so much canon now that, like, when writers want to do something, like, even, like, if, you know, I know Star Trek has, like, consistency things they go through, but, like, they're just, like, gonna do stuff sometimes.
Right.
Well,
and, like, it would have been... Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Like, it doesn't help either. I think that, like, pretty much every time some officer needs an alien buddy, it's almost always a Vulcan.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, what were you going to say, Stanford?
It's just, sometimes I, like, because it sounds like, in this scene specifically, you know, Phlox doesn't say, hey, like, you know, your old techniques of mental, you know, discipline may not operate or may not work, so you might need to find new ones or whatever to handle these emotions. He makes it sound like your brain doesn't work anymore, so therefore emotions are stronger and you can't fucking even begin to handle it. It's just weird that all of the Vulcan like discipline and like ritual and meditation and stuff is apparently like biological. It's not like behavioral. I don't know. It's just fucking weird.
The writers of this show are obviously funneling their cry for help through Vulcans, their inability to express their.
Time for lobotomy.
Ugh.
So yeah, they arrive at the rendezvous point to find that there's nobody there waiting for them. They slip into a high density space anomaly, which that's kind of fun. I didn't know that they could have high density.
My note here is like, this seems like a bad time for anomalies.
Duh.
And then the next line out of Trip is, Captain, we don't got time for this.
Yeah. Yeah, so the anomaly starts ripping apart the already severely injured Enterprise. And Archer orders Travis to get them out of there. But fortunately, Dagger's ship just materializes out of thin space and hails them. They follow Dagger's ship through another sphere cloaking field. And Dagger asks Archer to join him and the other Xindi conspirators on Dagger's ship. The Arboreal on board wants to see proof of time travel, which understandable.
Fair enough, yeah. Like,
yeah. Archer says he could show them proof on Enterprise, but he's worried about the safety of Earth in the meantime. So Dagger assures him that the weapon won't be launched for a few days yet. Meanwhile, back on Enterprise, Trip and T'Pol sit down for a meal in the very damaged mess hall. T'Pol, this was kind of funny, was forced to pick like pepperoni pizza, I guess, for dinner. And Trip is like, don't worry, you can pull the pepperoni off. Like, I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's still gonna have meat oils on it.
Yeah.
meat oils.
And also, are they vegetarian or are they vegan?
I
never heard about Vulcan cheese. So.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they ever said anything one way or the other about cheese and butter and stuff. They never like. She's a vegetarian, but she ate those breadsticks. I assume those had butter or milk in them. So I think they're all right on vegetarian.
True. All right. T'Pol says that she's worried about Trip's lack of sleep, which again, fair. But he's insistent that he needs to stay awake to take care of the ship and write the letter to crewman Taylor's family. While they're eating, Enterprise springs a plasma leak, I guess, and some of the piping burns another engineer.
Oh, Crewman Doug.
Crewman Doug.
His Crewman Doug's arm's looking rough.
Yeah. Trip and T'Pol run out to help take care of it, and just one more engineer winds up getting injured, but Trip gets to work fixing the pipes. Meanwhile, Archer's showing the reptilian bodies that I guess they brought back from Detroit. I don't remember that part of the episode.
No, that was never included.
Yeah. So yeah, he's showing off their trophies, I guess, to Dagger and his arboreal friend. They aren't convinced that Archer actually traveled back in time to stop them. So Archer then shows them the reptilian canister that they were storing the bioweapon in, that they planned on pouring into an HVAC system to kill everyone.
Yeah, the bioreactor that Archer's expert at using.
Mm-hmm.
Still unconvinced, they want to see proof of these trans-dimensional sphere builders, which seems weird because I think this arboreal was like a member of the council, right? Like, wasn't he there when they were talking to the sphere builder?
I think what they would like proof of, because they know that they don't know that she's from trans-dimensional oatmeal space or whatever. They think that she's just from the future. I think that what he wants proof of is the fact that they are, in fact, from a different dimension and that their intentions are to rewrite the Expanse rather than just help the Xindi out.
Yeah. We have a funny little scene here where Trip is like yelling and reprimanding a crewman, Seth MacFarlane, for not doing his job correctly and getting an engineer injured. I didn't know that he was in Enterprise. So that was kind of a fun little thing. Like
Wait,
I've
Wait,
been
was
watching
that
the
actually
Orville.
Seth
Is that
MacFarlane?
actually him?
Yeah,
What?
I-
All right, now I gotta go check this.
Hold on.
it was totally him.
Like, did you see the cast credit or?
No, but it's Seth MacFarlane.
I
Hold on,
I know who you're talking about.
I'm gonna pull up the episode.
I'm also pulling up
Okay.
the episode.
Oh my god. I feel like I just
Previously
derailed
on
the whole conversation.
Enterprise.
That is Seth MacFarlane.
Holy fuck,
You are
that
correct.
is definitely Seth MacFarlane.
Like, I knew he was a Star Trek fan. I didn't know he actually had a little cameo. That's funny.
Yeah.
How did I not notice? Like, it's obviously
Seriously.
him.
I don't know.
I guess because I was just so focused on Trip. Fucking hell, like that's wickedly him. It even he even has a line or two, and you can hear his voice.
And,
Yeah.
and Amazon, it lists him as, like, it credits him. Like, it specifically says it's him, too, so.
Fuck me.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane. Truman MacFarlane.
Too bad he couldn't be on a
Yeah.
good Star Trek.
Yeah. So Phlox hears Trip yelling at crewman McFarlane and steps in to try and convince Trip that he just needs to nap. He needs to sleep off the aggravation, I guess. I don't know. When he refuses, Phlox relieves Trip of duty and demands he sleep for at least 6 hours, which Trip haggles down to 4. Archer then shows his new Xindi friends the medical records of the sphere builder.
I thought it was before we get to that. I thought it was funny. Like, Phlox make sure he goes to his quarters to sleep.
Oh yeah, he like watches
Trip's
him.
like, your captain called you. He's like, I know. Stares it down as he walks away. I thought it was funny.
He's a good doctor.
Yeah,
Doing his job.
Yeah, when he's not, single-handedly responsible for whether or not a species of people survive. Yeah.
Hey, he's not their doctor, so.
What?
Archer's showing his Xindi friends the medical records from the sphere builder that they retrieved from Oatmeal Space. He tells them Earth and the Xindi are destined to form an alliance to stop the sphere builders.
Yeah, so
and,
much for not telling people about the future or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to save his homeworld, so
He's pretty much like, hey, you want to learn how you die?
yeah, right. So we get a scene where Trip's struggling to sleep and decides to take a walk to Crewman Taylor's quarters. Just when he's getting lonely, Taylor's ghost shows up to keep him company.
This was also not great.
yeah. It was a bit of a weird scene.
It was because we don't know this actor, we don't know this character, so it was just kind of silly. I don't know. It wasn't good.
Well, I think that they were trying to give this character a backstory in the fastest way possible.
But we didn't need that backstory, and I will point out that once he actually does write the letter, none of this backstory actually fucking comes up in it. So
That is true.
I think that it would have been better to use T'Pol here as this dream figment, maybe in a what if I was dead? What would you tell them about? What would you tell my parents about me? And try to use that guilt angle, because I think that's more important than you said that I was going to be a fine engineer someday. That doesn't matter. Use the thing that's actually weighing on Trip, which is the guilt that he feels for not being able to come up with anything for this letter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the whole point of the scene is Trip clearly isn't mentally ready to deal with the pressure of having members of his team die on his watch.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, he's right now he's conflating emotions that he has about his sister that he's been repressing with
Right.
the loss of Taylor.
However, without the recap, because I didn't watch that part, the sister thing doesn't really come up until that climactic moment. And I think that this would have been a better place to deliver it, actually. Now I just remembered the whole sister thing. Have his sister here.
Yeah.
Have her talking to him. Because, that was the crux of the climax, and it does kind of come out of left field if you didn't watch the recap.
Yeah. So you should have watched the recap.
I mean, I didn't watch the recap, and I got it.
I got it once they explained it in the climax. I didn't get it, but there was no indication of it until that moment.
No, I mean, I got that's what was happening at this point.
Yeah, you're a liar.
Yeah. So Taylor like starts to confront him, and like at that point, that's when Trip kind of like snaps awake, realizes that he's just having a nightmare. Uh, Back aboard Degra's ship, Degra and the Arboreal have another argument. The Arboreal still wants to see more evidence. Degra joins T'Pol in the command center aboard Enterprise, where Trip is just sort of like working on some electronics in the background,
So
and decides that now is a good time to berate Degra about the Xindi attack on Earth.
this is the first moment where it's like, oh shit, Trip and Degra are not going to get along. But then, like, Degra's just kind of there, like, the whole time. Because there are so many sequences after this where it's like, why is Degra fucking here? It's like Archer's...
Yeah.
It's like Archer's like, hey, check it out, Trip, Degra's here. You got some shit to say? Oh, come on, here we go. Like, it's so weird.
He's like egging him on the whole time. Yeah, speaking of Archer, he just enters and then decides to pull Degra away to his ready room once he realizes that Trip is probably going to murder this guy if he's left alone with him for too long. At this point, that little... What's that, Chris?
I said at least give him a good talking to.
Yeah. That little plasma leak that we saw earlier in the episode erupts into this huge explosion. Degra offers to help with repairs, but of course Trip refuses. So instead, he grabs his trusty tactical officer and suits up and heads out into the hole to fix it.
Yeah, because, like, in order to... The manual cutoffs for the thing that exploded are outside for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't... That doesn't make any sense.
I do appreciate that, like, all of Enterprise's hull plating has, like, a latch release and, like, a hydraulic assist to get the plating off.
No. He needed another manual release for that manual release panel because that fucker didn't come off at all because it warped or some shit.
Oh, yeah, Reed's didn't. Trip's totally worked fine. Yeah, they said that the heat from the plasma conduit was, like, warping it so it wouldn't open. Trip tells Reed to use his plasma torch to open it up, which, I don't know, that seems kind of dangerous given that there's a massive plasma eruption happening behind him, but...
Why would it be dangerous?
I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea.
Because plasma is not like flammable. It's already on fire. That's what plasma is, right? So, like...
It's true. It's no more dangerous than standing there, I guess.
Yeah. Fortunately, T'Pol delivers the very dramatic, you have 6 minutes to do this before the whole bus explodes.
Yeah, it didn't need the dramatic, like, tension builder.
None of this excitement, in quotes, was necessary. It would have been better. It would have been better if there was some kind of like Degra Trip interaction here instead to build up that kind of plot line better, because this was kind of unnecessary.
I think what happens to Reed was because it gives another point of conflict for Degra.
Right,
and Trip.
Yeah, that was just a method to give something else for Trip to yell at Degra about.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second here. Reed's EV suit can't really withstand the heat of the plasma, I guess because he's like 10 feet closer than Trip is. But he refuses to back off even after Archer orders him back in.
Yeah, he's just casually ignoring orders.
Yep. So he finishes getting the panel off, but his vision starts blurring.
He's like, fuck this panel. He just kind of chucks it. Okay, so this is where shows need to stop with the numbers. Because I looked up, because it was like 44 degrees Celsius or some shit. It was like Hoshi was telling us how hot it was in his suit.
Right.
It was like 112 degrees, which is hot. Don't get me wrong. But it's not pass out in 6 minutes hot. Like it's been 112 here, like outside.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
earth is on fire, but it's fine.
Plus, it's in space, so it's a dry heat.
I guess he's just British, so he can't handle, like, hot, humid climates. He's like, sorry, sir, I haven't had my quinine today.
He's too British.
I do wonder, how that heat transference, from the plasma, would be affected just by being in the vacuum of space.
Well, it's the radiant heat, right? Just like how the sun warms us.
Sure. I don't know the science of what type of range that heat would even have.
I mean, it's plasma,
Millions
right?
of
So it can be.
kilometers.
It has. There's a minimum amount of radiant heat that plasma has because it has to be a certain temperature before it even becomes plasma.
Sure.
And then after that, like, there's a pretty high ceiling. So theoretically, like, you could theoretically have something like the surface of the sun temperature, like, venting out of the ship. And that's like we make shit that's that hot all the time. Like, it's not that hard to do.
I mean, it's pretty hard to do.
Like,
It's
no, like
not
pistol
that
shrimps
hard.
do that shit or
Casually.
whatever.
But yeah, Trip finishes his bypass, then instructs Reed on how to complete his, and they succeed in saving the ship. Hooray! But Reed passes out from the heat exhaustion. So as you mentioned earlier, Stanford, Dagger's just kind of everywhere. So he joins the crew in welcoming them back inside.
They're in like the locker room and like they're getting Reed out and they're like, "He's get him to sick bay quick." And Dagger's just kind of here. It's like, what the fuck is he doing here?
I guess Archer's his escort, so wherever Archer goes, he has to go.
It's like, first of all, Archer doesn't even really need to be down here. But second of all, it's like Archer is rubbing Degra in Trip's face.
He definitely is. So yeah, Degra says that he hopes Reed will be okay as Phlox takes him off to sick bay, and that just sets Trip off. Archer orders Trip out and apologizes to Degra for Trip's behavior. And this is the point where we realize that like Degra is definitely having second thoughts. He says he didn't think he'd ever have to meet anyone affected by his weapon. And,
Degra's like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I think kill 6 million people. So it makes sense that someone's upset with me, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah. Like he says, like, you know, at the time he thought that it was necessary to save his people. Kind of like giving a little excuse for why he went through with creating a super weapon. Archer shows him scans that they took from the interior of the first sphere that they encountered. Dagger remarks that the Sindhi have never managed to get one inside, and that the scans have remarkable detail for a military vessel. And
I don't
Archer
understand
just
that sentence.
Yeah, I don't either. Archer just slyly like slips in that Enterprise was supposed to be a vessel of exploration.
I don't quite get why a military vessel wouldn't also have remarkably detailed scans. Like, the best satellite imagery we have is owned by the military. Like, Google ain't doing that shit.
Like, what were those Blackbirds that they used in like the Cold War?
The SR-71?
SR-71s, yeah. Just lost my place. Oh, there we go. Trip finally tries to record that letter to Taylor's family, but he's still struggling with getting the words right. Gets interrupted by Reed calling a tactical alert because a reptilian ship has entered the sphere's cloaking field. They hail Dagger's ship and tell them, well, demand, I guess, to have them undock from Enterprise. He says that he plans on detaining all the personnel aboard Enterprise, and the reptilians just start charging weapons because reptilian's going to reptilian, I guess.
That sounds
Archer and Reed
racist.
beg him, him being Degra, for help, but he's initially pretty hesitant, which is reasonable, I feel like. You know, they're still kind of questioning Archer's motives and all here. We get a fun little CGI sequence where Degra's ship undocks and starts moving past the reptilian ship.
Oh, you
That
mean the
reminds me.
slowest motion space flight fight that's ever happened?
That reminds me. Do you, when Reed and Trip were out doing the repairs or whatever, did you guys catch like when like Reed said something and Trip responded? There was actually like a CG mouth that was moving for Trip.
Oh no!
No, I didn't
notice
catch that.
Oh yeah, go back and watch it. It's hilarious
Oh, that's funny.
because it was like a scene with like Reed in the foreground and Trip in the background, but like I guess they didn't have the technology to just splice, you know, the image of Trip's mouth onto it. They had to like CG his mouth.
Yeah, they haven't had that technology because it was only invented in the 50s. So
Yeah. So Dagger's ship in slow-mo wanders by the reptilian ship and then starts a fire in their lasers.
Firing my laser.
They knock out the reptilian vessel shields. giving Enterprise the opportunity to target their weapons. They manage to disable the ship, but rather than just leaving them in that state, Degra just blows the whole ship up and says he was worried that they're going to report everybody to the council.
Which, like, that's par for the course at this point. That's fine. But, like, Scott Bakula tries to give this, like, shocked acting, and, like, the music kind of, like, makes this, like, dramatic, sad swing. Like, this was supposed to be some kind of, like, ethical dilemma. It's like, bitch, you blew up motherfuckers, like, literally earlier today.
Yeah,
It's like, Enterprise, stop trying to make this seem like it's a moral conundrum.
Like, Archer should have been, oh, good. They took care of that, so I didn't have to.
Right?
Like, we went pirating last week. Like, this isn't really, I don't know.
This is the show where the only reason Archer wasn't on board with killing an entire insectoid ship was because he was drugged by egg jizz, so...
Drugged by egg jizz.
Stomp them babies.
Stomping.
So T'Pol joins Trip down on another deck where they're starting repairs. She proffers a Xindi power cell that Degra offered to help like expedite the repairs to their ship. But Trip refuses any Xindi help. He just can't stomach it. So like at this point he just starts to lose it and break down. And like I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like this felt like it's easily Trinier's like best acting on the show so far.
This was good. This was his. He did a good job. The writing for it was fine. They actually the only issue I have with this scene is that they needed to give it more. They needed to give it more time. Like they built it up fine, and then it got to that emotional climax where he's crying and he's giving that that impassioned speech about missing his sister and feeling like, you know, he's not doing her memory any kind of justice, and he was hoping that he could just put it off till after the mission. Great stuff. Perfect stuff. And then there's this moment where T'Pol, because she is feeling emotions, starts like feeling them with him and moves to comfort him in a way that she's not familiar with, but she kind of understands the concept of. And then it just cuts out. And that was the moment where I was like, no, go back. This is good. This is good. Let this happen. Like, let them have a moment and give us actually some time with this.
Let it breathe.
But instead, we had to have stupid Degra locker room confrontation.
Yeah. So,
easily the best moment in the entire episode.
Yeah. It was very good. I liked it a lot.
Yep.
Degra catches up with Archer. He wants Archer to meet with the Xindi Council and show them all the evidence that he's presented so far. He lets Archer know that there's a subspace corridor that they can use as a shortcut to get to the Xindi like headquarters in 3 days instead of the 12 that they were assuming it was going to take them. But the trick here is Enterprise needs to enter a nearby nebula where a hostile species is living. I'm sure we're going to find out what that is next week.
I guess it's just foreshadowing for next week's episode or whatever, but it was just kind of a dumb little warning.
Yeah.
It was like weirdly ominous instead of being like, yo, like be detailed, Degra. What the fuck? A hostile species is good. Doesn't like people in their territory. Good luck. Like, what the fuck? Tell him what's going on.
Yeah. And then to wrap up the episode, we get Trip back in his quarters. Actually finish writing Taylor's parents' letter.
And this sequence right here, this scene, is a perfect example in like a microcosm of how the writers of Enterprise can't fucking finish something well. Because the scene was fantastic right up until the last moment where there was this weird stroking of the picture thing where we had this like focus on the picture of Taylor, and that's just completely unnecessary and kind of ridiculous. Like, again, we don't know this character. This isn't this is her first episode.
I thought that was a picture of his sister, wasn't it?
I thought it was the picture he found in what's her face's room.
I don't think so. I think that was a picture of his sister.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a picture of his sister.
Well, okay, that's a little better, but it's not much better because the camera work is just fucking awful. What is the name of this episode?
The Forgotten.
Forgotten. Stupid name too.
But he used it in the last little scene here. He said that she won't be forgotten.
Then she's
Had a
not
nice
the
little bow
forgotten.
on the episode.
Were you looking something up?
I was trying to see if it told me in the Memory Alpha thing whether or not that was his sister.
Oh.
It does not.
All right. Well, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 0 being threshold, what would you guys give this week's episode?
Sad about it.
Stanford just started throwing a lot of F-bombs around at the end there.
Are you waiting for me, Stanford?
Yeah, you go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
I'm getting judged already. I haven't even gone. Shit.
So I think I was kind of waffling between 3 and 4 with this one because there are some genuinely very good moments in this, which made me tend to lean 4. But there was also some very weird moments in this, or unnecessary moments. I think I settled in at a 3 for this one because of that.
Right.
Maybe a high 3, but a 3 nonetheless.
So I was also waffling between the two, and I think I kind of had the opposite reasoning you did, which is like, I don't know, this has all been kind of standard Star Trek nonsense. Is like, oh, it's the plasma leak, and oh, it's, you know, these guys and the time travel evidence, and Archer's got to show them the bioreactor. But then, like, even though they didn't quite let it breathe enough, the scene with Trip really kind of like helped it to stand out. Like that was a moment where the episode went from this is standard Star Trek to this is standard Star Trek, but here's like this really good moment.
Right.
That's important enough that I think it eked up into a 4 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Rob? Judge even judge.
So I was also kind of waffling back between a 3. No. I also gave this week a 4, for many of the same reasons as Stanford did. There were just a couple of really standout scenes in this week. I really like Trip as a character. It was cool, kind of like, I don't know. He's really like struggled with everything that's happened this season, and it's not like complete closure, but it was kind of cool seeing that wrapped up.
That's why the camera work in this one was such shit. It was LeVar Burton. God damn it. I cannot stand his directorial style.
Oh, jeez.
We're never getting that interview now.
No, I want to talk to him. He's a nice enough guy. I'll talk to him. LeVar, what the fuck were you
I
thinking?
don't think it's about you talking to him in this scenario.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be. I don't think that's the problem.
Like, Mr. Burton, I gotta ask you, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, I know it was 20 years ago, so like, let's be real.
Yeah, maybe we'll.
Did they not tell you how the camera works, or?
We'll have to watch some of his more recent stuff and see how you feel about it before we have him on.
I like how, like, for sure we're getting him on.
It's just a matter of time. We did just spend like the last 3 seasons ripping apart Star Trek for our own amusement.
Hey, and the amusement of a handful of other people, okay?
Hey, we got like
That's
2
true.
new listeners in the last couple days because some people were downloading the pilots.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a little break here, and we'll be back for this week's deep dive. All right, welcome back. So seeing Degra's hesitation this week at like releasing his new and improved super weapon kind of reminded me of. Have either of you watched Oppenheimer?
Yes.
I have not.
You have not. Okay.
Oh shit. Well, spoiler alert, Chris. They set off a nuclear bomb in it.
What? Yeah. So I thought it would be kind of interesting. I guess Chris, this will be potentially new information for you. I thought it'd be interesting just to kind of go through a little bit of history here and kind of look at Oppenheimer, sort of like what happened to him after the war and as a result, I guess, of his work on the atomic bomb. So I haven't found any evidence that he ever actually questioned the initial deployment of the atom bomb in World War II. I watched a couple interviews that were done, and he was always a little hesitant about it, I guess, but he really seemed to believe that the same sort of logic that his military handlers did, that the test explosion alone wouldn't have convinced Japan to surrender.
Yeah, but firebombing all of their cities to rubble before actually blowing up a bomb seems like it was doing just a fine job by itself.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of our decision to nuke civilian populations just to show off, and then to do it twice just to be a dick. Like, fuck you, America.
Yeah. I feel like the consensus is that the second one was definitely necessary. Because at that point, I think it was Emperor Hirohito at the time, right? Wasn't he already working on drafting a surrender?
I'm not 100% up on that particular aspect of the history, but as I understand it, that wouldn't surprise me, because as I understand it, we dropped the first one, and then we basically refused to talk to Japan until after we dropped the second one. There were no channels open until the second one fell, because we wanted to drop that second one. Because it was, how many days later? It was a few days later, at least.
3?
Sounds right. It may have even been a week. Maybe it was only 3. It was
I forget how long there was in between.
Yeah, this wasn't the same afternoon. No.
No, it was at the very least days. So yeah, after the war, Oppenheimer accepted a director position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. Position was offered to him by Lewis Strauss. President Truman also invited him to the committee that advocated for the founding of the Atomic Energy Commission, to which he was appointed as the chairman of the General Advisory Committee.
Is Liam whistling right now?
Yes.
He is.
Can you tell him to shut his fucking mouth? What the fuck? He knows we record one night a week. That's all I ask.
Oh, God.
Liam, Dad says shut your fucking mouth.
Liam would be like, oh, sorry. My kid knows how I talk. Man, fucking kids too, because he's doing his schoolwork today, and then I'm in the office behind him, and sometimes he's got to get shit from under his desk or whatever. So there's a lot of boom, like bumbling about and stuff under his desk. It vibrates the whole fucking floor, and it goes on for several minutes. And I'm like, Liam, what is the issue? He's like, I'm trying to plug my tablet in under my computer. And I'm like, do you need your tablet? He's like, no. And I'm like, then what are you doing? Get your ass back to school.
Oh, gosh.
All right. Riley's back.
I'm back. Got his headphones on, listening to his tunes with his drum mat and his lap and his.
Here we go. Yeah, so as chairman, he used his influence to lobby for international arms control to limit nuclear proliferation. He also worked to steer U.S. policy away from, joining the arms race that unfortunately turned into the Cold War. He was also very outspoken against developing the H-bomb on ethical grounds.
I like how that was his line. He's like, look. These two bombs, fine. H-bomb, unfucking acceptable. What are we doing here? What kind of monsters do you think we are?
Yeah.
The initial atomic bombs, they leveled. Part of the reason why they leveled as much of the city as they did in Japan was because Japan's construction, during that time, was basically full wooden structures. That was really it. They didn't have a lot of concrete or brick like we do. So the bombs were just extra effective.
Didn't the topography of the areas also contribute?
Yes, they specifically wanted to target areas within valleys to limit the detonations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it had something to do with the efficacy too, because they were doing an airburst and they wanted to basically create a bowl underneath of them.
Right.
Which is horrifying to have
But
to
the
say
H-bomb, no to that one.
Yeah, no. I mean, to be fair, it's many times greater.
Oppenheimer's like, look. I am become death, destroyer of worlds, but even I have standards. Like, shit.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, on January 31st, 1950, Truman signed off on the H-bomb development anyway, despite Oppenheimer and several other outspoken scientists that were on the board. Oppenheimer then resigned his position when his term expired in 1952.
What was his position?
Chairman of the General Advisory Committee of the Atomic Energy Commission.
That's quite the title.
It is. He also joined several other government panels over the years. He chaired the Department of Defense's Long Range Objectives panel, on which he spoke out about the dangers of nuclear fallout while writing the draft report of Project Gabriel. He also advocated for developing an air defense system to stop potential nuclear attacks, in the hopes of diverting funds away from just making larger and larger reserves of nuclear weapons. But that proposal was also shut down. He also chaired the State Department's panel of consultants on disarmament in 1952. He argued for postponing the first H-bomb test, and instead tried to convince government officials to seek a thermonuclear test ban with the Soviet Union before testing the bomb. But they ignored him, and they just tested the bomb anyway. One area where he did have success, at least, was convincing the Eisenhower administration to open up with the public and speak more frankly about the danger of nuclear weapons in Operation Candor. Up until that point, it was like a very abstract threat, because the Soviet Union hadn't really come out with any major tests of their own that had the destructive capacity of what the Americans were showcasing. And it sort of like brought everybody into reality. Like that's around the time where you started seeing like those nuclear drills in schools where
hide under your
you would
desks,
just
everybody.
hide
Kiss
under
your
your
ass goodbye.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, I mean, what the government had to do was show all them hills that they gave eyes.
Stop it.
Man, those movies scare the fuck out of me too. Like shit.
So, unfortunately, Oppenheimer's communist proclivities from his time at Berkeley before the war caught up to him in 1953. On November 7th, the former executive director of the U.S. Congress Joint Committee on Atomic Energy sent then FBI Director Edgar Hoover a letter saying that Oppenheimer was likely an agent of the Soviet Union.
Fucking Hoover, man.
Man, it wasn't even just Hoover.
No, it wasn't.
No.
America during
thing.
the Cold War was fucking stupid. It was run by people who were directly benefiting from us being in this bullshit Cold War that they kept propping up. It was nonsense. And all of our parents and grandparents are still to this day dealing with the brainwashing they all had about the evils of communism. It's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Stalin was definitely evil.
Sure. But, like, not because he gave everyone health care, okay? Like, that wasn't what Stalin did that was bad.
No, it was the cheap cars, don't you know?
And like, Stalin aside, our government very much used the evils of communism as an excuse to deal all that bullshit down in South America and Southeast Asia with the School of the Americas stuff.
Yep.
Like, fucking hell. It was just a nightmare time to be anyone.
Well, even in East Asia.
What I said, Southeast Asia.
Oh, I thought you said South America.
South America. I said South America and Southeast Asia.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Because, like the Cambodian region. Yeah.
So, his boss, Louis Strauss, informed him that his security clearance had been suspended a few weeks later. He asked Oppenheimer to resign his position, which he refused, and instead requested a security hearing. The hearing was held in secret from April to May of 1954, with a partial transcript being released.
That hearing is like the frame story of the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. The partial transcript was released in 1954 with some redactions to it. The Department of Energy actually released the full transcript in 2014. I did not know that. I kind of want to go back and read it because it's probably fascinating. Edward Teller, a fellow theoretical physicist from Los Alamos, who disagreed with Oppenheimer and supported the expansion of our nuclear arsenal, testified against him and was subsequently ostracized by the scientific community for being a dick.
That was the official reason for the ostracization.
Yeah. That was the official reason, yep.
Yeah. They all got together, they published a newsletter that said, "This guy's a dick.
This guy's a dick." He was subsequently ostracized by the scientific community.
For being a dick, yes. We heard you the first time.
Yeah, for being a dick. The board wound up voting 2-1 to revoke his security clearance. And then a month later, on June 29th, the AEC's board also, which was headed up by his boss, Lewis Strauss, also voted to uphold the findings by a 4-1 decision, with Strauss himself writing the majority opinion, stressing Oppenheimer's, and I quote, "defects of character, falsehoods, evasions, misrepresentations, and past associations with communists as the reason for revoking his clearance."
Oh, Red Scare America.
Yeah. Strauss would then go on to later lose his bid to be confirmed as Secretary of Commerce for Eisenhower, ending his dreams of a political career. He was also a dick.
Also a dick, yes.
Yeah. The movie makes him out to be quite a villain. I don't know how much of that was dramatized. Even Wikipedia notes that he's kind of painted as a villain in most reporting since all of this came out. So,
I mean, if you got a guy fired because he didn't want to make a bigger weapon and you thought he might have at one point someday, maybe have gone to a communist meeting back in the 40s, you're kind of a villain. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you bring in political aspirations, it's your motives are not the best.
Yeah. So the scientific community winds up viewing him as a martyr to McCarthyism and the Red Scare. In 2009, it was confirmed by several historians and journalists based on findings in the Vasiliev notebooks, which I think that they confiscated them from an old KGB archive. That Oppenheimer was indeed never a spy of the Soviet Union, though they noted that they had tried to repeatedly recruit him.
I was the Soviets have a notebook that's it would be awesome to get that Oppenheimer guy. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
He make big bomb. Me like.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, in 2022, the then Secretary of Energy actually vacated the revocation of his security clearance posthumously.
I was going to say,
okay,
pretty sure he's dead, so that's not going to really do much.
Yeah.
Minor note.
That's weird, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's a security clearance. We don't have to idolize this weird government bureaucracy thing.
Word question here. Is it posthumously or posthumously?
Posthumously.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Posthumously. I mispronounced that.
It's also subsequently.
You were doing just fine, Rob. I like the way he said subsequently.
I totally missed that one. I wanted to make sure that I was thinking of it right, because I definitely had things that I've said a certain way for a long time and then realized I was saying them wrong.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sentient
for his part, Oppenheimer went on to join Einstein, Bertrand Russell, and Joseph Rotblat in establishing the World Academy of Art and Science. He was also awarded the Enrico Fermi Award by the AEC in 1963, and the then chairman, Glenn Seaberg, offered Oppenheimer a second security hearing, which Oppenheimer refused. I think he was just
I don't blame him.
Everyone's shit. No, not at all.
Why would he want to do that again?
Yeah. A couple of years later, in 1965, he was diagnosed with throat cancer and passed away on February 18th, 1967, at the age of 62, after unsuccessful treatment. To this day, he kind of lives on as the scientific community's warning that like you don't really get to control how your research is used. And,
so I have a question about that.
yeah.
Like, you don't really get to control how your research is used, and yet he was also specifically developing a bomb. Like, is it a stretch to assume that's going to be used to kill a bunch of fucking people? Like, that's what bombs are for. It's not like he's like, I found a new way to brush your teeth, and the military is like, we can kill thousands. Like, it was a bomb.
I think he was more concerned with the arms race that followed, and like the threat
This is
that nuclear war could like genuinely destroy the planet.
I don't know if this was the intent of the movie, but it is certainly how I took it because, like, I'm going to use my own filters because I'm a cocky douche. But, like, there is a level of privilege to be like, well, I'm making a bomb, but there's just going to be 1 or 2 bombs, and then we're going to be fine after that. When in history has anyone ever taken a weapon and then just immediately extrapolated it into an entire arsenal of them? That's ridiculous. Like, it is incredibly naive, and I would say willfully, obstinately ignorant to suggest that I'm going to develop this bomb, and then after Japan surrenders, we're never going to use it again or try to make a bigger one.
Honestly, like, the nuclear weapons are probably the exception to the rule, because, like, humans have shown the most restraint with using those compared to any other weapon.
That's weirdly true.
Not in their production, and
True.
I'm not sure that's true. We've certainly tested a fuck ton of them.
Right, but not on
I
people.
believe Chris informed us of that.
Well, but again, the hills have eyes, Chris. We test them on some people.
Not wrong.
The North Koreans are probably testing.
But I think you understand what I'm saying, though, right?
My issue isn't like I guess you're right in that, like, we don't use them in war and haven't yet, except for the big ones at the beginning.
Right.
But, like, I think that it is silly of Oppenheimer to suggest that he did not see this coming, and I find it incredibly, I don't know, whitewashy for the scientists to say, like, well, here's an example of you never know how your research is going to be used. It's like, if you're working on something called a death ray, Steve, like, it's probably going to be used to kill somebody.
What it's called, a tickle ray, but it does kill people, but it also tickles them a little bit. Is that?
And the other thing too is like I understand that we haven't actually used nuclear bombs to kill anyone, but we often threaten to do so. That's kind of the unspoken threat of everything that we do, and that is a similar kind of violence. Like, it is distinguishing those two is a little metaphysical. It's not really like because that's still violent. That's still very violent to threaten someone with a nuclear bomb.
Some countries do it more than others.
Yeah, we do it the most, but like whatever. And of course, like, because and I don't know. It's like someone who like invented whatever the first like drone with a gun on it was. It's like, well, I hope this doesn't get used in war. That would be ridiculous. It's like, all right, you're a fucking moron. Like,
it's for target shooting, I swear.
Yeah. It's for bullseyeing womp rats or whatever the fuck. Like, yeah.
I feel like this is a lesson that like scientists have to learn time and time. It's like, isn't that the whole reason that the Nobel Peace Prize was like set up? Like,
Dynamite.
Alfred Nobel trying to like.
I know that.
So yes, but like bear in mind too that like I don't believe TNT was invented to hurt people. I mean, it certainly got there. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But
Wasn't it for mining originally?
Mining, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was initially developed as a mining and excavation tool, which like wasn't not violent. I'm sure we were trying to find a way to mine like indigenous land quicker and shit. But my point is that like there is no reality where a man as smart as Oppenheimer didn't know exactly what was going to happen with that weapon, given any kind of history.
I mean, there was a very real moment where a large chunk of that team didn't know if detonating the Trinity test was just going to completely strip the planet of its atmosphere.
Well, they assumed that probably wouldn't happen. At least a majority of them did. And thankfully, like it didn't. So don't worry about it. That is what happened to John Travolta's planet in Battlefield Earth, though.
What a fucking movie.
What a deep cut. Shit. That's when they invented the Dutch angle, was for that movie.
Fucking Scientology ass movie.
Fucking crazy ass movie.
And on that note, we're going to take another break.
Welcome back. So today's potpourri should be pretty short and sweet. I wanted to talk about the season 2 of Prodigy, since Liam and I finished that up a couple weeks ago. Chris, if I recall correctly, you haven't watched it yet, but it's a pretty simple kids show, so I'm not worried about spoiling it for you.
Oh man, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
I want to talk about like some of the things they've done well, and some of the things that I'm surprised they didn't do worse. But the overall plot of season 2 is basically like there are different timelines going on, and this was kind of hinted at the end of the first plot, the first season. But there's like different timelines going on, and then like I'm guessing someone on the Prodigy writing team read The Langoliers by Stephen King, because what apparently goes on in these alternate timelines is some timeline eating monsters come and eat the timeline. Which, that's fun. It's also weirdly existential for a kid's show because like when the monster eats you, you're erased from time forever. So like, you know, there was a red shirt with the named guy down on the away team, and the red shirt got eaten. And so when that guy got back to the ship, the captain's like, no, you went down by yourself. I don't know who you're talking about because that person no longer existed ever, which is fucking terrifying.
Duh.
Small tangent. I started reading Red Shirts.
Red Shirts is a good book. So, one of the things that I found that was kind of interesting about this show, and I was worried was going to be really bad, but actually surprisingly good, was that Wesley Crusher shows up and is like a fairly key component of the season. If you recall correctly, he is a traveler. And because the 80s didn't know how like science fiction worked well, he has this whole thing where like it's time and space and thought, because like consciousness is like the third aspect of, I don't know, TNG was stupid. But like in this one, he's kind of like what I think Will Wheaton would be like if he was in the actual Star Trek universe. So he's, you know, kind of fun and not taking things too seriously because he is technically like an omnipotent being, but whatever. But also like looking out for these kids and trying to take care of them. Where I thought that him showing up was just going to be kind of fan servicey nonsense. His character actually was very good throughout the season.
Yeah, because it definitely, like, when he showed up at Picard, it was definitely very fan servicey.
Did he show up in Picard? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was I think it was like in the last episode or something like that.
It doesn't surprise me.
That was the whole point of Picard.
Yeah.
Well, no, the whole point of Picard was to show how the olds could save the day. The entire enemy is you must be this old to not be affected by the mind control, I guess. What a fucking show. We've talked about Prodigy a little bit before, but I will reiterate that the characterizations in Prodigy are, again, for children, but actually, I'm guessing this show is more targeted at like middle-aged kids, so like kids in middle school, maybe young high schoolers. The characters that are the main characters are mostly just kind of teenagers, and they are surprisingly deep for a kid show. And I guess like this might be because I'm not watching a lot of kid shows today, because I remember kid shows from back when we were kids and they just weren't that deep. They just weren't that interesting. But the characterizations in Prodigy are pretty good. All of the main characters are very three-dimensional. They all have kind of some kind of interesting side plots going on that are very much about their character. There's two separate love stories that are kind of happening, but they're not over the top. They're just kind of there because it's, people who are working close to each other for months on end. So they, a couple of them form relationships. So that was generally true in the first season. I think I would say it actually got better in the second season. The characters are actually much better defined in the second season. And I think they did a good job with that. They also did a fairly interesting job extrapolating what the Star Trek universe could be like in these years. It takes place before Picard, but after Voyager and after Lower Decks. Maybe at the same time as Lower Decks. But it talks about so Janeway's an admiral, but she's got her own ship. It's like the Voyager B or some shit. But one of the cool things about this ship is it has a whale navigator, because we learned in the Star Trek 4 that whales are sentient and shit. So there's just a whale on this ship, which is kind of
what? That's fun.
It's badass. Yeah, it's got a big tank of water. It seems happy enough. It talks, so it's doing all right. And again, there's some pretty heavy spoilers here, but at the one point they end up in the mirror universe because they're jumping timelines, and one of the timelines is the mirror universe. And they get back from the mirror universe, and the one character's like, and even the whale was evil. Because the whale inside the cetacean ops in the mirror universe has this wicked scar across its eye and is all bad and shit. It's fucking fun. Yes, the mirror universe where even the whales are evil.
Amazing.
The show also did an interesting job kind of fitting itself into the timeline, especially at the end. It actually set up a couple of things for Picard in an interesting way. Crusher, Wesley calls his mom, and this is the last couple sequences of the show. Wesley calls his mom, is like, hey, it's been a while. I'm sorry I haven't talked to you. And his mom's like, I'm so happy to hear from you. And he's obviously the voice is Gates McFadden. And she introduces his baby brother to him, which is obviously a big character in Picard.
Interesting. Interesting. That.
Yes, so it is interesting because Picard is not a kid's show, so it is interesting that they set that up because assumedly kids who are watching this are not going to see Picard forever. If at all, it's pretty bad. But it's clever of them. Well, clever. I guess it's more towards the parents who are watching it with their kids.
Right.
But it definitely firmly sets when the show happens, because obviously this is about 20 years before Picard happens. The show also, the Protostar, the show started with this kind of interesting paradox in this season where the only reason that these kids got off of this mining planet was because they found the Protostar. But also they accidentally took the Protostar out of the timeline. So the goal of them is to get the Protostar back into the past, so that they can find it in order to maintain the timeline. Perfectly normal stuff. They kind of make fun of it a couple times in a lighthearted way. So at the end of the show, obviously they don't have the Protostar anymore. But they had built the second one, and that is the USS Prodigy.
Interesting.
So where they had, I was like, oh, it's interesting that the ship is not named the same thing as the show. Well, now it will be. All in all, though, I thought it was a good second season. I actually think it was probably storytelling wise a little better than the first one because it didn't need any time to get its feet wet. It's good. You should watch it if you're at all interested. If Star Trek's your thing, it's a nice light watch. Each of the episodes are only half an hour. And I guess there's 40 episodes total. So, it's not too long of a commitment. And, if you've got kids that are at all interested in Star Trek, it's good stuff. As long as they're not real sensitive to existential dread.
Uh-oh. Did you watch it with Liam?
I have a question, Stanford.
Yeah, Liam's fine. Liam has gotten over his existential dreads.
Oh, okay.
I have a question for you, Stanford.
Sure.
The Protostar and the Prodigy, Were they built under the same naval contract?
No, they have different numbers.
Okay.
The Protostar is an NX class, I think, or an NX track contract. I think it's NX, and there was a bunch of numbers after it. I think the Prodigy may have had the NCC.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Because it was an actual ship. Although, that's me fucking remembering from my shitty memory. So stand by a second. No, I don't need. Oh my god, I don't need to know what the word Prodigy means. Fuck off.
Oh yeah,
Alpha.
NCC 81084.
Oh, there you go.
It was a Protostar class Federation starship. Oh yeah, NX 76884.
I bet there are a lot of NX classes.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the Defiance NX number was, but the Defiant had an NX number as well. Although I believe at the end of the show, if I recall correctly, they said they're not planning on building another one, so this is it. So don't send this one into any kind of time rift.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was good. You should watch it. Chris, you should fucking watch it. I don't know what you're doing.
Got so much stuff to watch, man.
Oh yeah, we got to start Rings of Power.
I did. I watched the first half of the first episode yesterday while I was folding laundry. Enjoying it so far.
Prodigy or Rings of Power?
Rings of Power. Second season.
Second season. I haven't started the second season yet. I finished the first season.
Yeah, I like the first season. I'm sure the second season will be just fine.
Yep.
All right. Well, that'll wrap us for today. As we say at the top and the bottom, go out there, give us a rating, give us a review, tell your friends about us. It really does help us. We're getting some more listeners here and there, and I think that most of that is coming from people actually talking about it. That's really great, and it really does help. I know it seems like the kind of thing that's just like a platitude that all the podcasts say, but it genuinely does help. And that'd be great. Yeah, I mean that's all we've got. So we love you very much.
Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.